Welcome back in the course. In this segment, we will learn some of the trigonometric functions that you can perform in MATLAB. So first of all, we are going to learn the basic sine function. Please note that with this sine function, the output is going to be in radians and not in degrees. If you want it to be in degrees, you need to use the sine d function. And we know that in degrees, the sine of 180 is 0. And if you want to have it in radians and not in degrees, so in that case you need to use sine function without the d. Okay, in the same way we can compute the inverse sine by using the function a sine. So if we pass to it the value of 0.8415, it is going to return the value of around 1. The value of 0.8541 was being rounded off by MATLAB. That is why the inverse is not going to return us the exact value of 1.0. Similarly, we can have the inverse of sine in degrees using the function a sine with a d. A sine d. So a sine d will return the result in radians, and if you want the result to be in degrees, then we use a sine d. These are a couple of examples where the results are in degrees. So that's how basically it works. You may also pass some variables to these functions. For instance, variable a equals to 180, and then you can compute the sine of that like this. If the input is instead a matrix containing multiple values, so let's say we define a matrix of values such as 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10. And now you pass it to the function sine, so it is going to compute the element-wise sine of each and every element, and the values are all going to be in radians. In other words, it is equivalent of saying sine of 1, sine of 2, sine of 3, and so on up to the very last element. We can always confirm that by finding the sine of individual elements, such as sine of 1, which is 0.8415, and then sine of the last element, which is the same as the last value in the matrix. So depending on the variable a, it will execute the function. If it is a singleton element, then in that case it is a matrix of size 1 cross 1. That is, in that case it will compute the sine of a particular value contained in the variable. Alternatively, if it is a matrix, then it is going to perform it on element by element basis. Similar to the sine function, we have the cos function, and similarly we have the inverse of cos function, which is a cos. And both of them are going to return the result in radians. So if you want to convert it into degrees, you need to use cos d, which will give the result in degrees. And if you want to compute the inverse of cos in degrees, then we need to use the function a cos d. Remember to use this a at the beginning over here for computing the inverse. Similarly, we have the tangent function, and we have the tangent d function, which will return the values in degrees. Similarly, we have the inverse of the tangent in degrees and the inverse of tangent in radians. We also have secant function, which is specified by SEC. For computing the secant in degrees, we need to use SEC with a d function, and for computing the inverse, we have a SECD. That is, a stands for inverse, and then secant d, and then a secant d functions. We also have consecant function, which is specified by CSC for radians and CSC with a d for degrees. For inverse, we have ACSC and ACSCD functions. So these were some of the trigonometric functions that you can try with MATLAB. If you want to convert radians into degrees, you need to use the function which is rad to dig. RAD to DEG. It will convert the input into its corresponding degrees. In this case, I am using the value of pi, which is 3.141, and this is the corresponding degrees. Of course, if we add more precision into it, it will become exactly 180. Similarly to this function, we also have degree to radian function, which is going to perform the reverse operation. If we pass to it a value of 180, it will return the value of pi. And of course, we can always add more precision into it. These were some of the trigonometric functions that you can try with the MATLAB. You can always consult the documentation of the MATLAB for a complete list of trigonometric functions in case you cannot remember all of them. All you need to do is to go to the main page, then MATLAB, and then Mathematics, and then Elementary Maths, and finally to the trigonometric functions. And it will display the complete list of all trigonometric functions that you can use. So that was it for this particular segment. I hope you will be enjoying the course. See you in the next segment, and until then, enjoy MATLAB!